If Harper Lane had a soul, it would smell faintly of lavender detergent and quiet judgment. Every Saturday, the neighbors rolled their trash bins out like synchronized swimmers, handles aligned, lids gleaming under the same brand of LED streetlight the HOA insisted we all use. By Sunday morning, the lawns were trimmed, the flags rehung, and someone had won Yard of the Month. This time, it was mine, which was hilarious since the gardener had skipped last week. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The small wooden sign with golden lettering stood proudly by the hydrangeas when I stepped outside, holding my coffee like a peace offering. Across the street, Judy Hale, our HOA president, watched from her porch, lips pressed tight in a smile that meant she'd already found a flaw to mention at the next meeting. My phone buzzed in my pocket just as she lifted her hand in a stiff wave. A notification from the smart home app. Garage door opened, 2:03 a.m. I stared at it for a second too long. Ryan was supposedly in Chicago for a conference, the kind of vague event that doesn't exist in any calendar you can verify. My first instinct was to laugh. It came out more like a quiet breath through my nose. Maybe he'd come home early. Maybe a neighbor's sensor had synced with ours. Maybe. My lawyer brain loved a good reasonable doubt, even when my gut whispered otherwise. "Congratulations on your yard, Natalie," Judy called, stepping closer with her clipboard of righteousness. "Thank you," I said sweetly. "I'll try to keep it up to your spiritual standards." She blinked, trying to decide if I was being kind or sarcastic. I helped her along by sipping my coffee and smiling like I was blessed with patience. That afternoon, Ryan called. The background noise hummed like an airport lounge. "Hey, babe, just checking in. The meetings are dragging." "Uh-huh," I said. "Where are you staying again?" "The Marriott downtown." I made a mental note. Again. He always stayed at the Hilton before. It was a small shift, but I've learned that betrayals often begin with changes in brand loyalty. By evening, the cul-de-sac shimmered with porch lights and gossip. Caitlin Moore, my former best friend turned neighborhood reporter, dropped by with a tin of cookies and that smile that says she's collecting data for her next newsletter. "Heard you got the Yard Award," she said, handing me the tin, "and that Ryan's killing it with the new project." I almost snorted. "Yes, he's killing something, all right." She tilted her head, pretending not to catch the tone. "You must miss him." "Like I miss jury duty." And Caitlin laughed a little too loudly, then started describing a mystery woman she'd seen with Ryan at the hardware store last week. "Could have been a client," she added innocently. "Could have been," I said, stirring my tea. She waited for a reaction I didn't give her. Eventually she left, promising to feature me in the next HOA spotlight piece. Perfect, I thought. Let them polish my image while my marriage quietly rearranged itself behind the curtain. The next few nights, the garage notifications kept pinging, always between 2 and 3 a.m., always with the same pattern, open, close, nothing stolen. I asked Ryan casually if he'd left any spare keys with contractors. "Maybe," he said too quickly. You know how Dean runs back to grab tools sometimes. Dean Howell, his project manager, was many things. Lazy, smug, and probably overpaid, but I'd never seen him voluntarily do anything at 2 a.m. I let it go for the moment, smiling like a woman who believes her husband. On Thursday, Lily called. My sister's voice carried the tone of someone rehearsing sincerity. "Hey, sis, just checking in. Haven't seen you in forever." "That's because you're always checking in on Ryan instead," I said before I could stop myself. Silence, then a nervous laugh. "Don't be silly. He just helps me with my car sometimes." "Does he now?" I asked, because I've noticed my own car could use some help too. "Oh, Nat, you always sound so serious." I bit back the words I wanted to say. Lily thrived on deflection. Our parents always said she was spirited. I used to think that was code for selfish. Now I think it was an early diagnosis. After that call, I started paying closer attention. Ryan's messages were suddenly shorter, his excuses smoother. He started hiding his phone screen like a teenager. The construction invoices on our shared drive were missing gaps. And once, when his tablet synced with the home cloud, I caught a glimpse of a photo. Just a hand on a railing. A woman's ring with a tiny sapphire. Lily's ring. My ring's twin. Saturday arrived with the HOA barbecue, that glittering annual act of suburban diplomacy. Everyone brought something store-bought and pretended it was homemade. Judy Hale circulated like a benevolent monarch, while people whispered about whose mortgage was late and whose teenager got caught vaping behind the pool house. I made potato salad that could win lawsuits, and I smiled through conversations about lawn fertilizer and neighborhood unity. Ryan had promised to return that evening. Instead, he texted, "Flight delayed, stay up for me?" I typed back, "Of course." Then I put on yoga pants, opened the curtains upstairs, and waited. At exactly 2:05, the garage door rolled open. My hands didn't shake. I was oddly calm, analytical. A silver sedan slipped inside, headlights dimmed. Ryan's truck was still gone. The sedan's driver stayed in the shadows, but the passenger door opened, and a figure with long hair stepped out. She wore one of my hoodies. My stomach turned, but my face stayed blank. I reached for my phone, snapped a few photos through the window. I didn't storm down, didn't shout. I simply watched. The car stayed 10 minutes, then left quietly. The next morning, I went through the motions. Coffee, dishes, pretending. Ryan called mid-morning, sounding exhausted. "Sorry, babe, long night. The flight was awful." "Oh, I can imagine," I said. "Airports are so intimate." He laughed uncertainly. "You okay?" "Of course. Just admiring our perfect yard." That afternoon, Lily dropped by to check on me. She smelled like Ryan's cologne, the one I bought him last Christmas. She wandered the kitchen, touching things that weren't hers. "Ryan told me the remodel's going well," she said. "I bet he did." She frowned, studying me. "You look tired, Nat." "I stayed up late admiring the garage door," I said lightly. "It's been very active lately." Her hand froze on the countertop for a moment. "You always joke so strangely," she murmured. "It's a family trait," I replied. When she finally left, I went to my office, closed the door, and opened a blank document. I titled it Case Notes. Old habits die hard. Once a lawyer, always a lawyer. I listed dates, times, transactions. Nothing emotional, just data. The way you'd build a case if you were your own client. 2 nights later, the neighborhood gossip cycle spun again. Caitlin posted a community safety update about suspicious vehicles in driveways at night. Her photo was blurry, but I recognized the silver sedan. The comments section exploded with theories. Teenagers, contractors, secret deliveries. I typed a reply under my anonymous account. Maybe someone's parking their conscience for a while. The next morning, my mother called. "Darling, I have some news," she began, in that tone she reserves for tragedies that aren't hers. "Is Lily okay?" I asked automatically. "She's more than okay. She's expecting." I didn't say anything. Silence is a tool. It makes people fill in the blanks. "And, well," she continued, "it's Ryan's. They've decided to start fresh. And we all think it would be best if you handled this with grace. Support them, maybe help with the legal parts." I pressed my fingers against the countertop, feeling the smooth marble cool beneath my palm. My voice came out steady. "Of course," I said. "I'll help however I can." That's my mature girl," she said warmly, as if she hadn't just rearranged the universe. After hanging up, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply walked to the living room window. Across the street, Judy Hale was pruning her roses, perfect as ever. Caitlin's SUV rolled by slowly, camera phone angled just enough to catch a reflection. Somewhere in the distance, a sprinkler clicked on, steady as a metronome. I realized then that the world doesn't break with noise. It fractures quietly beneath the hum of normal life. That evening, I poured a glass of wine, sat on the couch, and started drafting the plan. Not a tantrum, not an act of chaos. Something deliberate. I thought of Ryan's accounts, our joint business filings, the small inconsistencies I'd ignored. I thought of Lily's need for attention, her habit of signing forms without reading them. I thought of how everyone loved a scandal, but hated being part of one. When Ryan finally called that night, his voice was cheerful, practiced. "Hey, Nat, I was thinking maybe we should talk, about the future." I smiled, though he couldn't see it. "Absolutely," I said softly. "Let's talk soon. I have some paperwork to prepare." He hesitated. "Everything okay?" "Perfect," I said. "Just perfect." After the call, I went to the garage. The air smelled faintly of oil and pine cleaner. I looked at the concrete floor where the silver sedan had parked, smooth and innocent. I placed a sticky note on the wall above the tool rack. Collect evidence calmly. No confrontation yet. Then I took a photo of the note, just to remind myself that this was the first move in a much longer game. The sprinklers came on outside again, showering the flawless grass, glinting like tiny sparks under the porch lights. Harper Lane slept in its curated silence, unaware that its next HOA report would be about something far more interesting than lawns. I climbed the stairs, phone in hand, the latest garage notification glowing on the screen. Garage door opened, 2:06 a.m. My pulse stayed steady. I whispered, "Of course." Then I turned off the lights and waited. On Monday morning, I booked an appointment with Claire Benton and cleaned my office like I was hosting a deposition for dust. I stacked casebooks I hadn't opened in years, lined up pens like witnesses, and set a glass of water on a coaster the size of a verdict. When Claire arrived, tall, neat, blazer sharp enough to slice soft excuses, she took one look at my setup and nodded as if we'd already agreed on something serious. "I'm not representing myself," I said before she could ask. "Even surgeons don't operate on their own hands." "Good," she said, sliding into the chair across from me. "Walk me through it from the top. Only what you can verify." "Notifications at night," I said. "Shared app pinging open clothes on the garage, silver sedan, a woman in my hoodie, my sister's ring, and a phone call from my mother." "Put that call in quotes," Claire said calmly, and I repeated the words, every syllable like a bead counted on a string. "Lily is expecting. It's Ryan's. Be mature. Help them start fresh." Claire didn't blink. She just uncapped her pen. "Okay, here's how this stays clean. Anything that isn't already yours, we don't touch without process. Joint accounts and shared devices, fine. Public records, fine. Your own house recordings, where legal, fine. Anything else goes through me. We get subpoenas, we get responses, we build the timeline. No improvisation that could taint the pool." "I'm actually very fond of pools," I said, "and timelines." We started with what I had. Joint business account statements, the ones I could access without trickery, showed small transfers that added up. A hardware store purchase that matched Lily's new patio set. A charge at a boutique hotel 30 minutes away from our house that, oddly, appeared on the business card, not the personal one. Claire circled each entry as if she were tracing a route through an unfamiliar town. "What about this house?" she asked, glancing toward the living room. "I record in my own living room when I host family talks," I said. "One-party consent in this state. You know that." "Of course I do," she said, looking pleased. "But I needed to hear you say it." We mapped a plan. Protect marital assets, gather documentation on the loan Lily allegedly pushed through using my name, establish that Ryan's business funds covered personal expenses for her. Claire handled requests and notices. I handled calm, strategic observation. I was to be polite, reasonable, and boring. Boring can be devastating when it's patient. At noon, I got a group text from Judy Hale reminding neighbors of Thursday's HOA meeting. Agenda items included pool rules, lawn height variances, and community etiquette. I nearly clapped. Nothing reveals true faces like the little stages people build for themselves. That afternoon, Ryan came home for the first time in days. He dropped his bag by the door and kissed the air near my cheek. "Long week," he said, stretching like a man who'd done something admirable for society. "Welcome back," I said. "You look well hydrated." He squinted, unsure. "I picked up takeout. Your favorite pad thai." "Great," I said, and meant it in the sense that food keeps people from asking questions. We ate quietly while he scrolled his phone face down, and I pretended not to notice the way he tracked it with the corner of his eye. Between bites, I asked about permits for the model home. He waved a hand. "You wouldn't believe the paperwork on that one." "Try me," I said, because some people forget that I can read forms like sheet music. He forced a smile. "I'll show you later. It's complicated." "Of course," I said, like a woman unburdened by curiosity. On Thursday, Claire filed the initial civil paperwork to protect our assets. Nothing dramatic, just careful locks on doors that should have been locked already. That evening, we both went to the HOA meeting because I believe in showing up for the small theaters where bigger plays are whispered. The community room at the clubhouse smelled like lemon cleaner and nervous coffee. Folding chairs formed neat rows. Judy stood at the front with her clipboard and her perma-smile, ready to shepherd us through lawn heights and fence stains. Ryan arrived late wearing a shirt I'd never seen and a cologne I unfortunately recognized. He wasn't alone. Lily walked in with him, hair shiny, smile brighter than common sense. She carried a reusable water bottle printed with tiny suns, as if hydration were a personality. A hush folded over the room. People love rules, but they love scandal more. Ryan scanned for a seat and found one beside me. Lily chose the row behind us, next to Caitlin, who pretended she didn't notice but angled her phone just so. "Let's begin," Judy chirped. "First, pool hours. We've had some late evenings." There were titters. I stayed still. Ryan stared at the floor like it had answers. Judy moved briskly through minor grievances. Trash bin timing, mailbox paint codes, acceptable shade of fuchsia for garden flags. Then she cleared her throat and lifted a slip of paper. We've received a few messages about late-night vehicle activity. Her eyes flicked to me, then to Ryan, then to me again. She positioned her smile like a shield. We encourage neighbors to be mindful of shared spaces and to communicate if there's unusual comings and goings. I raised my hand. Question. Judy brightened. Yes, Natalie? Would the board consider a guideline for garage sensor syncing? Some brands crosswire. We noticed our app pinging at odd hours, possibly from a nearby device. Ryan's head shot up. Lily shifted in her chair. The room rumbled as if someone had unwrapped a snack too loudly. Judy tapped her clipboard. A technology subcommittee could look into that? Lovely, I said. I volunteer. Caitlin coughed into her elbow, which is Caitlin for applause. After the meeting, as people drifted toward cookie trays, Lily floated near me like a bee that had read a blog post about boundaries. You're very brave, Nat, she murmured, standing up in public like that. I turned slowly. Bravery is when you speak truths you wish weren't true. Her smile faltered. You always talk like a judge? Occupational hazard, I said. How's your water bottle? Refreshing, she said. I'm sure, I replied. Ryan tugged my elbow. Can we talk? Anytime, I said, and watched him search my face for a route to mercy. He didn't find one because I hadn't set any signs. Back home, my parents called on speaker. They sounded like guidance counselors who'd practiced their lines. Sweetheart, my mother said, we visited Lily today. She's glowing. I considered telling her that glow often comes from stage lighting. I'm happy for her, I said flatly. We'd like to have a brunch this weekend. Family only, my father added, which meant they'd already invited neighbors who count as family when gossip needs seating. Let's host it here, I said quickly. Sunday, 11. A pause. They hadn't planned for me to control the stage. That's very mature, my mother said. Thank you, I replied. I'll provide pastries and ground rules. On Saturday, I prepped the house like a courtroom. Chairs angled to catch faces, the living room tidy with the kind of warm neutrality realtors love. I set a tray of croissants on the coffee table and placed a pitcher of orange juice beside crystal glasses we almost never used. Then I checked the small recorder nestled near a stack of coasters. Legal, one-party consent, just as Claire and I had discussed. I felt more centered than I had all week, not because I enjoyed this, but because I understood it. Facts are calmer than speculation. They arrived on time, like people reporting for a rehearsal. My mother wore pearls meant to look effortless. My father wore a golf shirt and the smile of a man who believes arguments can be flattened with charm. Lily wore a breezy dress that hid everything and revealed intention. Ryan wore nerves. We sat. I poured. Lily reached for a croissant with a little sigh, the kind that says she believes the world is her pastry tray. I want a gentle conversation, my mother began. We're all adults. We can be gracious. I adore gracious, I said. It pairs well with honesty. Ryan cleared his throat. Nat, I lifted my hand. I'd like to start with a timeline. When did you two decide you were together? A thud of silence. My father coughed. Lily looked at Ryan as if the answer might be embroidered on his collar. It wasn't like that, she said softly. We were confused. Then we weren't. Dates would help, I said, sipping orange juice. I love dates. February, she blurted. Or March, around the permit filing for the model home. There it was. She'd just tied her personal plot to a public record. I smiled, not kindly. Interesting, because the permit filing was mid-April. Quick question. How did you know that? She blinked. Ryan told me. Of course he did, I said. He shares so generously. My mother rushed in. Natalie, please, let's keep this civilized. It's perfectly civilized, I said, still smiling. I'm making sure our story aligns with what the city's website will say. Ryan rubbed his forehead. Nat, I'm sorry. I handled this poorly. I agree, I said, but we'll handle it properly now. When they left, my living room felt like a stage after the curtain. Confetti of crumbs, chairs crooked, leftover lines hovering in the air. I picked up the recorder and set it gently on my desk, next to the new folder labeled with the date. Then I sent Claire a quick message. Brunch yielded useful audio. Timeline slip includes mention of permit month. Call me when free. She called within 30 minutes. You sound calm, she said. I sound calm because these things are easier to carry when you hold them by the handle. Good. Email me the file. I'll have it transcribed and time-stamped. Also, our initial notices went out yesterday. We'll see some movement on accounts next week. By Tuesday morning, we had responses. Not many. Defense attorneys are trained in delay, but enough to set markers. A bank confirmed receipt of our asset protection notice. The city clerk's office acknowledged the permit request and provided public timestamps. Claire nudged me to keep living my life, to attend the HOA things I found so nourishingly ridiculous, to be visible and unruffled. I went for a run around the lake trail and waved at neighbors like a campaigner for sanity. Caitlin jogged up beside me, all ponytail and teeth. "Can I ask something wildly intrusive?" she said. "You always do." "People are whispering." "People here whisper loudly," I said. "Fine." I saw Ryan and Lily at the hardware store again. He bought an expensive fixture. The cashier rang it on the business account. "How thorough of you to notice," I said. "I'm a community journalist," she announced. "It's a service." "It certainly serves someone," I said. "If you want a real scoop, you should look at the model homes placard next week. The dates will sing." She almost tripped, catching herself mid-gasp. "You can't just flirt with a story and walk off." "I can," I said, and accelerated until the conversation became a dot in my rear view. That night, I went through our shared cloud with clinical attention. I stayed within the folders I had a right to. No more, no less. Photo timestamps, document names, a screenshot Ryan had saved of a catering order for a private luncheon scheduled at a boutique hotel lounge. The meal package looked like something for a small celebration. I tried to imagine a version of myself that cried over the menu and failed. Instead, I bookmarked it mentally as exhibit someday if necessary. The next HOA meeting was a special session about budget overruns related to the pool. The community room buzzed like a hive hit with a broom. Judy stood at the front with her clipboard, channeling kindergarten teacher energy. Ryan arrived late again, and this time he brought Dean, the project manager, who strutted like a man who confuses swagger with substance. They sat together, whispering hard. Lily didn't show. Perhaps even she has a limit for public stages. During Q&A, I raised my hand. "Judy, can the board remind vendors that model homes must display accurate permit placards at all times? I visited one recently where the date looked optimistic." Dean twisted in his chair. "Everything's above board," he snapped. "I'm sure you believe that," I said gently. "Optimism is very on brand for this neighborhood." A ripple of laughter moved through the chairs. Dean's smile curdled. After the meeting, he cornered me by the coffee urn. "You trying to make trouble?" "I don't make trouble," I said. "I announce it." "You're toying with things you don't understand." I leaned in slightly. "I understand invoices. I understand permits. I understand the sound of a garage door at 2 a.m. He blinked. "You can't prove anything." "Proof is a journey," I said. I bought good shoes. Then I set my empty cup carefully on the table and walked away. By Thursday, the first financial shock landed. A vendor refused to release materials to Ryan's company without written confirmation of funds. It was a small hiccup, but small hiccups become coughs. I watched him pace the kitchen that evening, phone to his ear, voice low. "Supply chain," he told me after he hung up, doing that shrug men learn in sales seminars. I said. "Everything everywhere has a chain these days." That night, I checked the silver sedan's plate number from my earlier stakeout against public records. The car was a rental. Of course it was. Rentals are for people who want to be seen and not owned. I filed that under patterns and slept with the kind of steady breath my mother always mistook for forgiveness. Sunday came, and with it, a little trap disguised as neighborly warmth. Caitlin texted at 8, "Brunch at yours last week looked lovely. Any chance I can swing by for a quick HOA spotlight interview?" "Sure," I replied. 10:30. Bring your reporter hat." I vacuumed and set out a single vase of supermarket tulips. At 10:30 on the dot, Caitlin arrived with a tote bag full of questions and a smile pretending to be friendly. I walked her to the kitchen, poured coffee, and waited. She never could stand silence. "So," she crossed her legs, "how's married life?" "Educational," I said. She grinned. "People are very invested in your happiness." "People here are very invested in keeping the surface quiet," I said. "A quiet surface makes excellent cover." Caitlin's eyes gleamed. "Is this on the record?" "Everything I do is on the record," I said. "That's the point." She leaned forward. "Do you want me to print something?" "No," I said, and watched disappointment flicker across her face. "I want you to wait. Waiting is hard." "It is," I agreed. "But sometimes the moment needs to season. If you're patient, you'll get a story that tastes better." She laughed, frustrated and interested at once, and packed up her tote. At the door, she paused. "You're different," she said. "Maybe I stopped decorating my patience," I replied. That afternoon, Claire called. Her voice was brisk, energized. I have something. I stood very still in my kitchen, eyes on the vase of tulips. Tell me. We received the first packet from the lender. Application logs show an attempt to authenticate using your name and a scan of your driver's license. The metadata indicates the submission originated from an IP address associated with Ryan's office. I exhaled slowly. And the signature? Looks like yours at first glance, she said, but the formation of certain letters drifts. The slant changes mid-name. It's not classic forgery theater, it's subtler. The notary stamp is real, but the appointment time doesn't match the notary's book. I confirmed with a lawful request. The notary placed a different person at that time, another client entirely. I let the information settle like cards in a shuffling machine. And the transfers? 2 traceable routes from Ryan's business account to a card Lily uses, both described as supply runs. One coincides with a boutique hotel catering invoice. We'll get more with the next round of records. I rested my hand on the counter. So it's starting to align. It's aligning, Claire said. And Natalie, these are indicators, not final conclusions. But they are strong. I'll file an amended notice tomorrow. We'll move for broader discovery. Good, I said. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't celebrate. I just looked at the tulips, bright and temporary, and felt something like gravity tilt in my favor for the first time in weeks. Claire added, Be ready. When this kind of thing starts to crack, people try grand gestures. Stay boring. Let them do theater. We'll do structure. Boring is my favorite party trick, I said. After we hung up, I walked to the front window. Harper Lane looked exactly the same. Trimmed hedges, perfect driveways, flags catching a small breeze. But beneath that tidy picture, I could sense a new current. Not a storm yet, just a shift. People were about to notice that the placards in their lives didn't match the dates. Some would cling to the props. I planned to turn on the overhead lights and let everyone see the stagehands. I poured another cup of coffee and stood in the quiet, listening to the house breathe. Then my phone buzzed with a message from Ryan. Family dinner tonight? We should talk. Yes, I wrote back. We will. He sent a thumbs up. I stared at the little yellow hand and, for the first time since the garage notifications began, smiled for real. Small, private, and sharper than it looked. It rained the next morning, the kind of suburban drizzle that makes people drive slower and confess faster. I woke before sunrise, brewed coffee, and watched condensation trail down the kitchen window. Ryan was still asleep upstairs. His bag sat by the door, half-packed, zipper open like a mouth about to argue. The plan forming in my head didn't involve shouting or theatrics. My father used to say composure wins more battles than anger. I'd once believed that. Now I knew better. Composure doesn't win, it dismantles quietly. By 8 o'clock, Ryan left for the office. I waited until his truck disappeared down Harper Lane, then slipped into jeans, a gray hoodie, and sneakers. My destination, Dean Howell's townhouse on the opposite end of the neighborhood. The rain had turned the sidewalk slick and reflective, which suited me. A mirror city underfoot, one that didn't talk. Dean's coupe sat in the driveway, shiny as a brag. He'd recently bragged, in fact, during the HOA mixer, loudly recounting how some people didn't understand how partnerships worked, that loyalty sometimes required creative accounting. His voice carried. He'd looked at me the entire time. I crouched beside the coupe and pressed my fingertip to the cold metal of the door. Then I drew a single word with my house key. Honor. Tiny, deliberate, almost polite. I opened my backpack, took out a small bag of glitter, silver, the color of falseness, and poured it carefully into the air vent near the windshield. The particles swirled like confetti at a parade no one wanted to attend. When I straightened, a neighbor 2 doors down was walking her dog. She saw me, paused, lifted her hand in uncertain greeting. I waved back with the calm of someone rearranging her own day. Dean's porch light flicked on as I turned to leave. I didn't hurry. The rain softened behind me, and for once the air on Harper Lane smelled honest, wet pavement and fresh decisions. By the time I returned home, Claire had texted, "Received bank response. Transfers confirmed. Call when alone." I called from my office. "They verified the payments?" I asked. 2 transactions labeled as business expenses, but routed to Lily's personal account. Amounts match boutique invoices. This is building into a clear civil pattern. Excellent. "Anything unusual on your end?" she asked. "I took a walk," I said. "Cleared my head." She didn't ask more. Good lawyers know when silence is protective. That afternoon, Ryan came home early. He looked rumpled, agitated. "The supplier held an order again," he said. Supply chain, I murmured. Still unreliable. He gave me a strange look. Sometimes you sound like you know things you shouldn't. Sometimes I do, I said, smiling just enough to make him nervous. Later, while he showered, I scrolled the neighborhood group chat. Someone had posted a photo of Dean's coupe covered in glitter, captioned, "Harper Lane's fairy godmother strikes again." The comments were viciously funny. I typed nothing, only sipped my tea and scrolled until Caitlin chimed in with, "Karma sparkles." When Ryan stepped out, towel around his neck, I said casually, "Dean okay?" His hands froze mid-motion. "Why?" "Oh, just wondering. The group chat's lively this evening." He exhaled sharply. "People here need hobbies." "They have one," I said. "Observation." That night, I slept soundly for the first time in weeks. Revenge, when done properly, is not wild, it's tidy. The next day brought the first financial tremor. Ryan tried to pay for materials using the joint account card. Declined. He frowned at the screen, muttered something about banking errors, and grabbed his keys. "I'll fix it," he said. "Of course," I replied, opening my laptop. Within an hour, Caitlin texted, "Saw Ryan at the hardware store arguing with the cashier. Trouble at the Empire?" "Probably just supply chain," I sent back. "You always have the best one-liners," she wrote. "I rehearse," I said. By mid-afternoon, Ryan stormed into my office, face flushed. "Did you touch the accounts?" "Claire handled filings for asset protection," I said evenly. "It's standard when a partner's business involves shared funds." "You're freezing me out of my own money." "Our money," I corrected. "We'll sort it soon, with structure." He stared at me like he didn't recognize the woman in front of him. I wondered if he ever had. 2 days later, Dean confronted me in person. He showed up on my driveway wearing mirrored sunglasses and false confidence. "Real cute prank," he said. "You think this is funny?" "I think it's poetic," I said. "Glitter always finds the cracks." "You've got no idea what you're stirring." "Oh, I have an idea," I said softly. "And gloves." He stepped closer, voice low. "Ryan's trying to handle this quietly. Don't push him." "Tell Ryan quiet doesn't live here anymore," I said. Then I turned my back and walked inside, leaving the door unlocked, an intentional gesture of disdain. I could feel his glare even through the wall. That evening, I found a legal envelope on my porch, a cease and desist letter from Ryan's attorney accusing me of harassment. I almost laughed. The ink was barely dry before my phone buzzed again, Claire calling. "They blinked," she said. "Ryan's lawyer just withdrew from representation, conflict of interest, probably saw our filings and ran for the hills." "So," I said, "we're making progress." "Rapid progress," she agreed. "I'll handle the next steps. Keep your calm routine. You're winning by stillness." "Stillness is my new hobby," I said. That weekend, Harper Lane buzzed with fresh gossip. Dean's glittery car had become a meme. Someone printed stickers of it and pasted them on the HOA bulletin board. Judy Hale announced an emergency decorum session. Caitlin published an anonymous story titled "The Color of Loyalty," dripping with innuendo that every reader correctly traced back to my house. Ryan barely spoke to me. He stayed in his office, fielding frantic calls, slamming drawers. I cooked dinner, cleaned dishes, and noted every tremor in his composure. Anger, in him, came out as silence too heavy to breathe near. I had no intention of giving it oxygen. One night he muttered, "You wanted me humiliated, didn't you?" "No," I said. "I wanted honesty. The humiliation is just a symptom?" He laughed bitterly. "You're enjoying this." "I'm documenting it," I corrected. "Big difference." Late Sunday, the rain returned. I went for a walk alone, hoodie pulled tight, air cold enough to sharpen thoughts. Houses glowed with false warmth, families watching TV, dogs curled on rugs. My reflection in each dark window looked composed, deliberate, exactly as I needed to be. When I got back, Ryan's truck was gone. The garage door log pinged open, then close, then open again. I checked the timestamp. 11:47 p.m. I called the number on file for the alarm system and asked for a full record of access. The operator confirmed what I already knew, my account, my right to request. The report would arrive by morning. Upstairs, I stood by the window, watching the rain trace faint paths on the glass. Somewhere out there, Ryan was scrambling to hold together a world built on convenience and charm. Somewhere else, Lily probably rehearsed how to sound fragile. I thought of my mother's voice. "Be mature, dear." I smiled faintly. Maturity, I decided, is simply the art of revenge served at room temperature. When the garage light flicked on again, I didn't flinch. I took a photo from the window, time-stamped, clear, another piece for the folder, then I whispered, "Of course," and the rain answered like applause. The morning of the hearing felt too ordinary for what it was about to host. The coffee brewed the same, the street looked the same, even Judy Hale's sprinklers sang their punctual tune. Only the stillness in my stomach knew better. I dressed deliberately, dark navy suit, hair sleek, not a strand out of place. The mirror reflected someone calm enough to unsettle anyone expecting weakness. Claire met me at the courthouse steps, folders under her arm, expression all focus and quiet pride. "You ready?" "I've been ready since the first garage notification," I said. Inside, the hall smelled faintly of old polish and paper, justice's perfume. Ryan was already there, flanked by his new lawyer, a young man who looked like he practiced sincerity in elevators. My parents sat behind them, holding hands like this was a family recital. Lily perched between them, her expression a delicate arrangement of remorse and calculation. Claire leaned toward me. "Stay quiet unless the judge asks you directly. Let me steer." "I can do quiet," I said. "It's my favorite kind of noise." When the clerk called the case, we rose. Judge Avery entered, her face as unreadable as marble. Claire's opening was surgical, precise, calm, not a trace of drama. She laid out the financial discrepancies, transfers from the joint account to Lily's, the forged loan with my name, the mismatched notary log. Ryan's lawyer objected once, something about domestic misunderstanding. The judge's eyebrows twitched like a warning light. "This looks structured, counsel," she said dryly. "Not a misunderstanding." Lily shifted in her chair, hands clasped on her lap. I watched her throat tighten. When Claire displayed the forged signature projected on the courtroom screen, my parents gasped in stereo. My father's hand dropped from my mother's. Ryan leaned forward. "Natalie, you don't have to." Claire held up a hand. "She's not testifying, Mr. Cooper." The hearing rolled on. Account statements, the catering invoice, even a screenshot of a message where Ryan had instructed Dean to code expenses as supply runs. Claire handled every exhibit with elegant restraint, never once raising her voice. The other lawyer grew smaller by the minute until he whispered something to Ryan and began packing his briefcase. "Withdrawal," he murmured to the judge. "Granted," Judge Avery said. "We'll reconvene in 30 minutes for continuance instructions." The gavel tap was softer than I expected. In the hallway, whispers followed us like perfume trails. Reporters for local outlets hovered with notebooks. A Judy Hale, of all people, appeared by the vending machine pretending to read the snack list. Harper Lane had arrived in full attendance. Ryan approached, voice low and strained. "You're destroying everything." "No," I said, looking him squarely in the eye. "I'm revealing what you built." His jaw clenched. "You'll regret this." "I've been regretting less important things for years," I said, stepping around him. Outside, the air was warm and damp, thunderclouds forming somewhere beyond the courthouse dome. Claire joined me a few minutes later, holding a paper cup of coffee. "Well," she said, "that went better than well." I smiled faintly. "I suppose this is where people say it's over." "Oh, it's not over," she replied. "It's just visible now." We stood there a moment, silent, except for the sound of courthouse doors opening and closing. People spilling into sunlight, verdicts in hand, the city humming on. By evening, word had spread through Harper Lane like pollen. My inbox filled with neutral messages that weren't neutral at all, neighbors offering support, Caitlin forwarding anonymous tips about Dean's panic selling his car. Judy sent a politely worded reminder about upcoming HOA elections, ending with, "We value transparency in all things." I almost applauded. Around 9, Ryan showed up at the door. He looked smaller somehow, his shirt untucked, eyes bloodshot. "We need to talk," he said. "We really don't," I replied. He stepped inside anyway. "The contracts are collapsing. Do you understand what you've done?" "I understand what you did," I said. "You should probably start there." He ran a hand through his hair. "Lily's falling apart. She can't handle this." "She handled signing my name well enough," I said coolly. He sighed. "You win, okay? Happy?" "Not yet," I said, "but close." He left without another word. The silence he left behind felt cleaner than any apology could. The next morning, my phone pinged with a message from Claire. "Judge issued temporary receivership order. Contracts frozen pending audit. You're effectively clear?" I sat on the porch with my coffee, reading that line again and again. Across the street, Judy Hale was trimming her roses, pretending not to watch me. A delivery truck stopped at Dean's place. men unloading boxes labeled storage. The glitter-coated coupe was gone. Caitlin's latest newsletter arrived in my inbox an hour later. Headline, "The Law of Lawns, When Perfection Hides Plot Twists." She'd written it like satire, but every line trembled with curiosity. She mentioned a neighbor's day in court and truth blooming between hydrangeas, subtle as a marching band. That afternoon, I took a drive past Ryan's model home project. The open house banners fluttered weakly in the breeze. Through the glass, I saw him pacing inside, phone glued to his ear, gesturing at someone invisible. A contractor, perhaps, or a ghost of confidence. I parked a block away, watching the house reflect the sunlight like a lie losing polish. When he noticed my car, he froze. I didn't move. He waved his hands, shouting something I couldn't hear, but I stayed still. Eventually, he went back inside, slamming the door hard enough for the glass to rattle. As I drove off, thunder rolled in the distance. It sounded like the beginning of something final. That night, I opened my laptop and added a new entry to my folder labeled Case Notes. Entry 47. Court hearing completed. Counsel withdrew. Receivership granted. Model home observed. High stress, reduced traffic. Objective, closure pending. Then, almost as an afterthought, I typed another line beneath it. Observation, revenge can be elegant when written in plain language. When I closed the laptop, I felt neither relief nor triumph, only a steady focus, like a metronome that knows the song isn't finished yet. I poured a small glass of wine and sat by the window. The night was quiet except for distant thunder and the soft, rhythmic patter of rain on roofs. Somewhere across town, Ryan was realizing that silence can be louder than any accusation. I raised my glass slightly, to no one in particular, and whispered, "Almost there." Outside, the streetlights flickered once, and the world went still again. The storm passed overnight, leaving the air washed and sharp. By morning, sunlight spilled through the blinds like a spotlight, the kind used in interrogations. I brewed coffee, opened the local news site, and there it was, a small article titled "Local Builder Faces Licensing Review After Audit Filing." It didn't name Ryan directly, but the details might as well have been written in neon. Every neighbor who read it would know exactly who the builder was. Claire called before I finished the mug. "You've seen it?" she asked. "I have, subtle as always." "I didn't leak it," she said quickly. "Someone at the courthouse must have tipped the reporter." "I'm not complaining," I said. "It saves me a press release." By afternoon, Harper Lane was humming. People watered lawns they'd already watered, just to linger outside, hoping I'd appear. Caitlin texted, "The model home open house is still on for tomorrow. Guess someone's pretending nothing happened." I replied, "Pretending is this neighborhood's favorite cardio." She responded with 3 laughing emojis, and then, "You're coming, right?" "Wouldn't miss it," I wrote back. The next day, I dressed in pale gray, neutral, non-confrontational, yet impossible to overlook. I parked a block from the model home and walked the rest of the way, heels clicking softly on the freshly sealed asphalt. Balloons bobbed on the mailbox, cheerful in defiance. Through the big windows, I saw agents arranging hors d'oeuvres and brochures printed with smiling families. The smell of lemon polish met me at the door, trying too hard. "Welcome," the agent chirped, handing me a glossy pamphlet. "Thank you," I said, glancing at the cover photo, a couple standing on a porch that looked suspiciously like my own. Ryan stood near the kitchen island, sleeves rolled up, charm dialed to 11. He spotted me instantly. His expression faltered for a beat before he forced a salesman grin. "Nat," he said, voice too bright. "Didn't expect you." "Open houses are public," I replied. "I'm the public." Dean appeared behind him, wearing a jacket too expensive for someone claiming financial strain. He muttered something to Ryan, who gave a tense nod. I wandered through the rooms. The staging was almost comically perfect. Vases of lilies, books stacked artfully, a tray with fake wine glasses by the couch. Then I saw it, the permit placard pinned on the corkboard near the hallway, the one meant for buyers to admire. Its date was wrong, months off. Sloppy. I took a discreet photo. A few potential buyers wandered nearby, whispering about the audit article. I heard one of them say, "Wasn't his wife some kind of lawyer?" I smiled slightly, letting that seed find its soil. Ryan approached. "You can't just walk around taking pictures." "I can," I said. "It's a public event. You invited me." He lowered his voice. "You think humiliating me will make you whole?" "Wholeness is overrated," I said. "Precision's better." Then Dean stepped forward, jaw tight. "You've made your point, Natalie. Leave before you embarrass yourself." I turned to him slowly. "You assume embarrassment is my weakness?" He smirked. What else do you have left?" The slap landed before I even decided to deliver it. Clean, sharp, the sound slicing through polite chatter like a dropped tray. Conversations froze, phones lifted. I leaned close enough for him to hear me clearly. "The invoices," I whispered. "They'll sing soon. Make sure you're listening." Then I smiled sweetly at the onlookers. "Excuse us. Just a small disagreement about fixtures." Dean's face flushed crimson. Ryan stepped forward, voice shaking. "You're unbelievable." "No," I said softly. "I'm thorough." I moved toward the exit, but not before noticing a control panel by the kitchen wall, labeled Irrigation Demo. Someone had wired the model home's sprinkler system to show buyers how smart homes managed lawn care automatically. Unfortunately for Ryan, they'd connected it to the interior test piping as well. I paused by the door, exchanged a look with Caitlin, who had materialized near the entry with her phone half hidden in her purse. "Thinking of writing a follow-up?" I asked. "Always," she said. "Anything to report?" "Give it 5 minutes," I replied. As I stepped outside, a burst of laughter from somewhere inside broke into chaos. Water sprayed from the ceiling vents in a sparkling arc, drenching brochures and hors d'oeuvres alike. Guests screamed, agents scrambled for towels, and Ryan shouted orders no one followed. Through the window, I watched Dean slip on the soaked tile, landing hard on his pride. Caitlin gasped beside me. I didn't touch a thing," I said. "But accidents do enjoy good timing." She grinned like a cat discovering cream. "This is gold." "Silver," I corrected. "Glitters more your color." I walked away. While behind me the model home turned into a very expensive fountain. That evening, the neighborhood group chat was a wildfire. "Anyone know what happened at the model home?" "Water main burst." "Heard someone tampered with it." "No, it was a smart system error." Caitlin posted a single line. "Sprinklers reveal all." I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my folder and added another entry. Entry 53. Model home, public malfunction. Witnesses present. Potential link to negligence, not direct interference. Optics favorable. Then I closed the laptop and poured a small drink. The satisfaction wasn't gloating. It was relief measured in controlled breathing. For weeks, I'd lived among facades polished to blindness. Now cracks were showing everywhere. Ryan didn't come home that night. His truck wasn't in the driveway by morning, but a letter was, slipped under the door, unsigned, just one sentence written in his handwriting. "You've ruined us." I folded it neatly and placed it in the evidence folder. Then I whispered to the empty house, "Not yet." Because this wasn't the end. It was only the pause before the final scene, one more act before the curtain dropped and the audience stopped pretending they hadn't enjoyed the show. The morning after the sprinkler fiasco, Harper Lane felt strangely quiet, as if even the birds had decided to listen instead of sing. People peeked from behind curtains when I walked to the mailbox. The gossip cycle had exhausted itself overnight. First speculation, then outrage, then a collective hush that meant everyone was waiting for the next spark. I planned to give them one. I spent the day setting it up. Claire helped me finalize a mediation meeting under the pretense of resolving assets amicably. The invites went to Ryan, Lily, my parents, and, by coincidence, Judy Hale, who'd offered the model home's empty kitchen as a neutral space. I knew Judy couldn't resist witnessing what she'd call restoration of community harmony. Translation: front row seats to carnage served in business casual. At 4 p.m., I drove to the model home with my folders stacked neatly in the passenger seat. The sky was washed out blue, air heavy with that electric pause before evening. When I arrived, the house was immaculate again, dry floors, lemon scent, the faint hum of air filters fighting yesterday's flood. Ryan was already there, pacing near the island. He looked older, or maybe just less curated. His shirt clung damply at the collar. Lily sat on a stool, eyes red but dry. My parents stood behind her, rehearsing their pity. Judy hovered by the door with her clipboard, pretending she was there by accident. "Let's start," I said, setting my folder down. My voice carried easily in the hollow space. Ryan folded his arms. "You called this meeting, Natalie. Say what you came to say." "I will," I said. "But first, I need everyone to understand what we're really mediating." I pressed a button on the tablet I'd connected to the big screen. The mirrored display lit up. Rows of documents, dates, and screenshots. I'd organized them like a prosecutor with an eye for choreography. "This," I began, "is a timeline. It starts 3 months before Lily's announcement." Lily shifted. "Nat, please." "Quiet," I said, not loudly, just firmly. The first slide showed a screenshot of our shared bank account. "Ryan, You transferred $10,000 labeled as contractor retainer. It landed in Lily's personal card 2 hours later. Ryan's jaw tightened. You can't prove that's... Next slide, I said, and the forged loan application filled the screen, my name, my license scan, a timestamp from Ryan's office IP. Claire had made sure the metadata displayed clearly. You remember this, Lily? You mentioned the permit filing date during brunch, but the filing occurred 6 weeks after this submission. Curious how you knew. My parents began whispering to each other. Judy scribbled something that might as well have been applause. Ryan slammed his hand on the counter. You've been spying. I've been documenting, I said calmly. There's a difference. He took a step toward me. You think this makes you strong? No, I said. It makes me correct. Claire, standing by the doorway, spoke for the first time. Mr. Cooper, your client file shows pending review for fraudulent filings. Attempting intimidation here won't help. Lily burst up from her stool. This isn't fair. You're destroying our family. I turned to her. Family implies loyalty, Lily. What you had was proximity. She looked to my mother, expecting rescue. Mom, say something. But my mother's face was pale, her eyes darting between the screen and the judge's name stamped on each document. My father reached for her hand and missed. I clicked again. The next slide displayed a contractor message log from Dean's number. Text threads about adjusting invoices and keeping her distracted. Gasps rippled through the room. I saw Judy's pen freeze midair. Then, as if the universe loved theater, the front door burst open. Dean stumbled in, clutching a soaked envelope. Ryan, the cleanup invoice, it's double. They're threatening to sue. He stopped mid-sentence, realizing every face in the room was turned toward him. Caitlin stepped in behind him, phone raised. Don't mind me, she said, smiling like a cat who'd already found the cream. Just covering the community restoration effort. Ryan's composure cracked like thin glass. Get out, he hissed. I didn't move. No, I said quietly. You stay, Dean. You're part of this. He opened his mouth, then closed it. The silence filled with the faint buzz of the tablet cooling fan. I spoke slowly, clearly. Ryan Cooper, you siphoned funds from our business to finance a relationship with my sister. You forged my signature to secure a loan. You staged expenses to mask personal purchases. And when you ran out of lies, you tried to bully me into silence. Ryan's voice trembled. You think you've won something. I've already won, I said. What happens next is just accounting. Claire handed him an envelope, formal notice of intent to seek sanctions barring his company from HOA contracts for at least 5 years. His fingers trembled as he tore it open. The sound of paper ripping echoed like a drumbeat. My mother whispered, Natalie, this can't be necessary. It's overdue, I said. I turned back to Lily. You once told me maturity meant letting things go. I let go of your excuses. Her lip quivered. I never meant... You meant every word until it cost you something, I interrupted. Now it's costing everything. Judy straightened her blazer. Well, she said softly, I suppose this concludes our community mediation. No, I replied, eyes still on Ryan. It concludes my patience. I reached for the final button on the tablet. A video clip began to play, the recording from our family brunch. Lily's voice, unmistakable, saying, Ryan told me about the loan approval in March, right before he filed the permit. The timestamp glowed on screen. Gasps. My parents froze. Even Claire looked momentarily impressed. Lily covered her mouth. Ryan's face drained of color. The room's air thickened until every breath felt deliberate. Caitlin lowered her phone but kept it recording. This will play well, she murmured. Ryan lunged forward, reaching for the tablet. I sidestepped neatly. Touch it, and I'll add obstruction to your list. He stopped inches away, chest heaving, the weight of exposure pressing down. Dean dropped the envelope he was holding. It hit the floor with a wet slap. My parents stood silent, the architecture of their favoritism collapsing in real time. I closed the tablet, unplugged the cord, and slipped it into my bag. We're done, I said. Ryan's voice broke. Where will you go? Wherever silence isn't mistaken for forgiveness, I said. Outside, the late sunlight hit the flooded lawn, scattering gold across puddles. The model home behind me hummed with the remnants of chaos. Muffled voices, doors slamming, Judy's sharp instructions to file a report. Caitlin followed me to the driveway, phone still in hand. You're not staying for the aftermath? She asked. There's no aftermath, I said. Just fallout. She grinned. You know this'll be everywhere by morning. Let it, I said. Maybe honesty will finally trend. She gave a little salute. I'll title it The House That Truth Built. Too optimistic, I said. Try the house that collapsed on time. I got into my car, closed the door, and exhaled. Through the windshield, I saw Ryan stumble onto the porch, calling my name once, then again, voice cracking. I didn't answer. The sound muffled behind glass until it became nothing but air pressure. As I pulled away, my tires rolled through the shallow puddles, scattering arcs of water that caught the sunset. In the rearview mirror, the model home shimmered like a mirage dissolving, beautiful, fragile, already forgotten. I didn't look back again.